Hey there and welcome back. This is Felix from Gold Unmapped Vintage Watches. Before there was the Submariner, before there was the Day-Date, before there was the Datejust, there was the Rolex Bubbleback. Affectionately known in collector circles, the Rolex Bubbleback is no longer one of Rolex best known models. It has been out of production for many decades and therefore does not immediately appear on the radar of many new watch enthusiasts and Rolex fans. However, it is actually one of Rolex's most historically important models, and that's why I decided to take a closer look at it today. Let's start the video with some short facts about our Bubbleback today. Here we have a good condition Rolex two-tone oyster perpetual Bubbleback reference 3065 from the 1940s, featuring a 32 diameter tonneau shaped two-piece case with a smooth bezel, screw-down case back, hooded lugs and screw-down period gold oyster pattern crown. Furthermore, it features a beautiful radium-burned, kinda leopard patina dial, aged luminous Arabic indices and matching lume on the Mercedes hands. Although the diameter is only 32 mm, the oyster case, the case thickness and the hooded lugs contribute to the impression of a larger timepiece on the wrist. Like many other Rolex terms, Rolex did not invent the term Bubbleback. Instead, the name Bubbleback was born as a nickname among collectors, due to the way the protruding caseback is designed. And as with many other nicknames, Rolex never adopted this nickname. Although Bubblebacks were not specifically designed for a challenging sport environment, as it is usually the case, they have nonetheless set the foundation for many vintage and modern Rolex models and helped pave the way for some of the most iconic elements of Rolex watches. But how did the Bubbleback find its way into Rolex catalog? The first hand-wound Rolex Oyster in 1926 was a clear technical and commercial success, but customers had trouble dealing with a new type of watch. A waterproof watch with a screw-down crown was a novelty in the early 20th century, and customers simply did not understand the importance of securing the crown before the watch came into contact with moisture. Since the crown had to be unscrewed daily to wind the watch, customers easily forget to screw it back on. And so quite a few Rolex customers tried to return their waterproof watches to the jeweler as being defective. But as always in the history of his career, Rolex founder Hans Wilsdorf had a solution ready. Customers needed a watch that didn't require the crown to be unscrewed and screwed down to start it up. The result was the self-winding watch, which only required the crown to be opened to set the time from time to time. Instead of reinventing the wheel, Rolex added a self-winding mechanism to an existing hand-wound movement. So the birth of the Bubbleback can be traced back to Rolex's invention of the perpetual rotor. But instead of building a completely new watch from scratch, Rolex uses an existing design as a starting point, the oyster. However, since the rotor made the movement thicker, the thickness of the watch had to be adjusted to make room for the rotor. Rolex did this by adding a protruding caseback, giving birth to the nickname Bubbleback because of the way the caseback is designed. The Rolex Bubbleback was the world's first self-winding waterproof watch. However, it was not the first self-winding watch. The Bubbleback was the first automatic Rolex watch to be water resistant. Many of Rolex competitors used automatic movements designed from scratch, but this proved unsuitable for two important reasons. First, unlike competitor models, Rolex movements could be wound by hand via the crown, a feature that was popular with customers who did not yet trust the new invention. Second, the hand-wound base was easily to spot for watchmakers, who were often hesitant to work on newly fashioned automatic movements. So in 1931, Rolex patented the perpetual rotor, which Rolex then incorporated into the oyster, leading into the development and introduction of the Bubbleback in 1933. From the beginning, Rolex put the word perpetual on the dial to indicate that the watch did not need winding. It was produced for almost 20 years until the first Explorer prototype took the place of the Bubbleback in 1952. Originally, Rolex Bubbleback watches were made with a 3-piece case, but in 1936, Rolex introduced a new case design that featured a 2-piece construction, as you can see it on our today's piece. These watches were not only made in stainless steel during its production years. In fact, it was made in a variety of different metals, including yellow or rosé gold in 9, 14 or 18 karat. In addition, Rolex made them in either solid gold or bicolor or two-tone. Among the numerous dials and case designs that appeared during the nearly 20 years of Bubbleback production, bimetallic watches like our current model are always a rarity. Bracelets were also available in these materials, but often they were delivered on leather straps because the purchase of a bicolor or steel bracelet would have been associated with considerable costs. So many buyers opted for leather straps. In addition, bracelets from the 1930s to the 1950s had the durability of a folded beverage can that collapsed after a few years of hard use. So if you search an original bracelet from Rolex from the 30s to the 50s, it's very, very tough to find an example in good condition. Rolex has created a wide range of different dial and hand designs over the years. The wide selection of dials make the Bubbleback particularly interesting to some collectors, as they have to hunt for specific dial versions. After all, the hunt is a big part of the kick when it comes to the watch collecting. And the many dials mean there's a whole world to explore and to discover. And the more you dig, the more little details and differences you discover in the dials too. Rolex has also used several different hands for the Bubbleback during production. These include alpha hands, the iconic Mercedes hands like on our today's piece, and others. There are even more differences when you include the different bezel shapes. The bottom line is that the world of Bubbleback watches is huge, and there's a lot for a collector to explore and discover. In the 1980s and 1990s, a Bubbleback in good condition sold for much more money than a steel Daytona. Unbelievable when you compare it to today's standards. It may surprise many people that Rolex Bubblebacks were more hyped and more sought after than any other Rolex professional model. When you look at today's watch market, this is actually unthinkable, but it is true. Still, considering the historical significance of these watches, it is not very surprising. However, the fact that they are not as popular today shows that trends and preferences change over time. In the early 2000s, the Bubbleback collector market collapsed, partly due to the state of the global economy at the time, and Bubblebacks never really recovered from that blow. But as in fashion, trends in the watch industry change from decade to decade. So what I'm trying to say, if you find the design and the story behind the Bubblebacks attractive and appealing, now is the time to look for these under the radar pieces. I'm pretty sure it will be worth it. The Bubbleback represents a distinct period in wristwatches, and that makes it, in all its varieties, quite collectible. So that is all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and yeah, have a great day and hope to see you in our next one.